Welcome to a journey into the origins of thought, where we will explore the minds that shape the very foundations of our understanding. Hello, my name is Mike, and I am the host of Mind Escape Podcast. I am happy to share my new series called Masters of Rhetoric. The goal is to draw from the earliest philosophers, scientists, and critical thinkers to help navigate the current technological paradigm. In a world where divisive and heuristic rhetoric often dominate online spaces, I believe it's crucial to return to the roots of dialectic. This approach can offer the thoughtful discourse that humanity desperately needs today. So join us on this philosophical adventure by subscribing to our channel and podcast. Engage with us through your comments and critiques. We're excited to hear your thoughts. Let's embark on this journey together with Masters of Rhetoric. Enjoy the series. Masters of Rhetoric, episode number 7. The Ancient Origins of Epistemology, from the proto-epistemologists to Aristotle. Here is a map for reference. On the right, you have the arrow pointing to Miletus, which is in Western Turkey or Asia Minor. This is where Ionian physics was born, some of the earliest natural philosophers. You can go back to our first episode on the pre-socratics. I go through the birthplace and origins of a lot of the early philosophers of ancient Greece and the Mediterranean. You have Miletus on the right, which was the birthplace of the Milesian school. And then working our way to the left, there you have Athens. And even more left, we have Croton, which is where Pythagoras had his ascetic number magic cult. And even further to the left, we have Elea, which is where the Eleatic school was born. The reason why I like this map for reference is it shows you how spread out the Greek Empire was, along with these ideas in this time period. The proto-epistemologists, laying the groundwork for knowledge. The pre-socratics were not epistemologists in the modern sense, but their attempts to explain reality without mythology mark the shift from mythos to logos, and the beginning of rational inquiry. This shift was essential to the birth of epistemology, as they question what exists, how we know it, and what we can trust. Thales of Miletus, the first known Western philosopher. The Milesians, from myth to matter. Thales of Miletus lived roughly between 624 and 546 BC. Thales was the first to seek natural explanations for the cosmos. He claimed water is the fundamental arche or principle. He introduced the idea that the world is intelligible and governed by principles, not gods. Epistemic significance. His natural philosophy marks the start of naturalistic explanations and observational reasoning. Belief that the universe has an order that can be known. Anaximander. Anaximander lived roughly between 610 and 546 BC. Anaximander proposed the apeiron, the indefinite infinite, as the source of all things. Anaximander suggested cosmic balance as an early form of natural law. He made the first map. He also offered rational explanations for celestial phenomenon. Epistemic significance. Anaximander shifted focus from substance to underlying principles, early abstract reasoning, and an intellectual move towards first principles. Anaximenes. Anaximenes lived roughly between 586 and 526 BC. Anaximenes argued air was the arche. He used processes, condensation and rarefaction, to explain change. Anaximenes saw qualitative change was a result of qualitative processes. Epistemic significance. Anaximenes introduced mechanistic thinking, change as measurable, not mysterious. This anticipates scientific explanation. Heraclitus. Heraclitus was known as the philosopher of change. Heraclitus of Ephesus lived roughly between 535 and 475 BC. He's famous for everything flows, all is in flux. He introduced logos as the rational principle that governs change. He rejected sensory certainty. Truth is found in underlying structure, not appearances. Epistemic significance. Heraclitus introduced the idea that rational structure, or logos, exists behind changing phenomena. He had early recognition of cognitive dissonance between appearance and reality. Parmenides. Being and the denial of change. Parmenides of Elea lived roughly between 515 and 450 BC. Parmenides is famous for being is, not being is not, and denied the reality of change. Parmenides argued that reason alone cannot lead to truth. The senses deceive. Parmenides is also known for saying truth is eternal, unchanging, and singular. Epistemic significance. Parmenides is the first true rationalist. He placed absolute trust in reason over experience, setting the stage for Plato. Zeno of Elea. Zeno of Elea lived roughly between 490 and 430 BC. Zeno is most famous for his paradoxes. An example is Achilles and the tortoise, which he created to show that motion is logically impossible. He challenged sensory-based reasoning and defended his teacher Parmenides. Epistemic significance. Zeno demonstrated that logic can contradict perception, prefigures the problem of epistemic justification. How do we know which source to trust? Empedocles. Pluralists and early empiricists. Empedocles lived roughly between 495 and 435 BC. He proposed 4 elements: earth, air, fire, and water, and 2 forces, love and strife. He speculated that perception occurs when like elements from objects enter our sense organs. Epistemic significance. Empedocles links sense perception to physical causality, one of the first naturalistic theories of sensation. Anaxagoras. Anaxagoras lived roughly between 500 and 428 BC. He introduced nous, or mind, as the ordering force of the cosmos. Everything contains a portion of everything else. Nous arranges it. Epistemic significance. He introduced intellect as a cosmic principle and the idea that mind and knowledge are fundamental to the understanding of the universe. Democritus. Early epistemological dualism. Democritus lived roughly between 460 and 370 BC. He developed atomism. All reality is atoms and void, according to Democritus. Democritus theorized 2 routes for knowledge: legitimate knowledge, which is through reason, and bastard knowledge, which is through the senses. Epistemic significance. Democritus was first to propose an explicit epistemological dualism: reason versus sense perception. His skeptical leanings prefigure later empiricist versus rationalist debates. Here I created a table. Across the top from left to right, I have thinker, key contribution, and epistemic shift. Descending on the left-hand side, I have Thales, Anaximander, Heraclitus, Parmenides, Zeno, Empedocles, Anaxagoras, and Democritus, and Democritus. The key contribution I have for Thales is natural explanations. To the right, under epistemic shift, under Thales, I have from mythos to logos. For key contribution for Anaximander, I have apiron, balance, and abstraction. And then moving to the right under epistemic shift, I have early metaphysical speculation. For key contribution for Heraclitus, I have logos and flux. Moving to the right under epistemic shift, for Heraclitus, I have reality is intelligible but always changing. Key contribution for Parmenides, being is and reason over senses. Moving to the right under epistemic shift, I have rationalist foundation of truth. Key contribution for Zeno of Elea, I have paradoxes. Moving to the right under epistemic shift, I have logic versus perception. Key contribution for Empedocles, I have elements plus sensation. Moving to the right under epistemic shift, I have physical basis for perception. Under key contribution for Anaxagoras, I have nous as cosmic mind. Moving to the right under epistemic shift, I have intellect is foundational. Key contribution for Democritus, I have atomism and dual epistemology. Moving to the right under epistemic shift, I have reason is greater than senses and the start of skeptical inquiry. Again, I create visuals along with these podcasts and these episodes. So if you're interested, I highly recommend checking out our YouTube channel if you're not already. And also we have video episodes on Spotify as well, because there is visuals as I am reading off this table I created. Socrates, the midwife of knowledge. Primary sources. Socrates wrote nothing. Our sources come from Plato's early dialogues like Euthyphro, Apology, Meno, and many more as we've already discussed. Also Xenophon's Memorabilia, and indirectly from Aristophanes and Aristotle. Epistemological contributions. Dialectic, Elanchus, a method of questioning that exposes contradictions in the interlocutor's beliefs, designed to move closer to truth by eliminating falsehoods. Epistemic humility. I know that I know nothing is not nihilism. It's a call for intellectual honesty. Knowledge begins with recognizing ignorance. Universal definitions. Knowledge requires stable, essential definitions. What is justice, virtue, etc.? He sought conceptual clarity rather than mere empirical examples. Virtue is knowledge. In Meno, Socrates argues that true knowledge of the good necessarily leads to right action. This moral epistemology fuses ethics with knowing. Analysis. Socrates was less a theorist and more a methodologist. His genius lay in redefining philosophy as a process rather than a possession. He was the first to treat epistemology as ethical, seeing knowledge as not merely an intellectual achievement, but something tied to how one lives. Legacy. Socrates left no system, but his method of doubt, self-examination, and pursuit of essential truths became the seed of all subsequent epistemology. Plato, the architect of rationalist epistemology. Key dialogues. Meno. Meno explores whether virtue can be taught and introduces anamnesis, or recollection. Theaetetus. Theaetetus investigates what is knowledge and criticizes major definitions. In Republic, books 5 through 8, Plato introduces the divided line, allegory of the cave, and the theory of forms. In Phaedo, Socrates argues that the soul knows truth before birth, knowledge as remembrance. Key dialogues. Meno. Meno explores whether virtue can be taught and introduces amnesis, or recollection. Theaetetus. Theaetetus investigates what is knowledge and criticizes major definitions. Republic. The Republic books 5 through 8 introduce the divided line, allegory of the cave, and the theory of forms. In Phaedo, Plato has Socrates argue that the soul knows truth before birth, knowledge as remembrance. Epistemological contributions. Theory of forms. True knowledge is about unchanging eternal forms, beauty, justice, etc. Physical world yields only doxa, which is opinion, because it is in flux. Tripartite epistemology in Theaetetus. Knowledge is perception, was rejected. Heraclitean flux undermines it. Knowledge is true belief, rejected. You can believe something true accidentally. Knowledge is justified true belief, discussed but also criticized via the jury example. Anamnesis. Knowledge is recollection from a previous immaterial existence of the soul. It points to a kind of rational intuitionism. The soul accesses truths through reason, not experience. Allegory of the cave. Humans live in ignorance, or the shadows, and must ascend to the form of the good, true knowledge. Education is not giving knowledge, but turning the soul towards what is already known. Analysis. Plato built the first complete theory of knowledge in Western philosophy, rationalist, dualist, and metaphysical. He was deeply skeptical of the senses, believing that certainty can only be from one's reason's apprehension of abstract, not empirical truths. Legacy. Plato's conception of knowledge as justified, eternal, and immutable continues to influence debates in epistemology. However, his reliance on metaphysical forms makes his epistemology both powerful and problematic, compelling in theory, elusive in application. Aristotle, The Systems of Empirical Epistemology. Key texts. Posterior Analytics. Formal Theory of Scientific Knowledge. Metaphysics. On First Principles and the Nature of Being. Nicomachean Ethics. Links knowledge with action and moral virtue. De Anima, The Psychology of Perception and Thought. Epistemological contributions. Empiricism and abstraction. All knowledge begins with sense perception. The mind abstracts universals from particular experiences. Induction and deduction. Induction. From repeated observations, we grasp universal truths. Deduction, sigillism, reasoning from universals to particulars. Demonstrative knowledge, based on true primary premises or axioms known intuitively. Types of knowledge. Episteme, scientific, demonstrable knowledge. Techne, craft knowledge. Phronesis, practical wisdom. Nous, intuitive intellect, grasp of first principles. Causal knowledge. To know something is to know its causes, material, formal, efficient, and final. Epistemology is inseparable from explanatory depth. Analysis. Aristotle shifted epistemology from metaphysical dualism to scientific realism. His insistence that knowledge arises from structured experience, not pure reason, makes him the father of scientific epistemology. His Posterior Analytics is arguably the first treatise on scientific method. Legacy. Aristotle's epistemology grounds science, logic, and empirical investigation. Unlike Plato's idealism, Aristotle's approach is operational. It tells us how to know in the real world. Here I have a table I created. Again, please check out the video episodes of this podcast. At the top, from the left to the right, I have philosopher, method, source of knowledge, key concepts, legacy. And then descending on the left-hand side, I have Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Under method, for Socrates, I have dialectic. For Plato, I have rationalism. And for Aristotle, I have empiricism plus logic. Source of knowledge. Under Socrates, I have self-inquiry and reason. Under Plato, I have forms, reason, and recollection. Under source of knowledge for Aristotle, I have perception plus reason. Under key concepts for Socrates, I have alanchus, ignorance, and virtue equals knowledge. For Plato, I have episteme versus doxa, cave plus forms. Under Aristotle, I have induction, demonstration, and four causes. Under legacy, for Socrates, I have method over system. For Plato, I have first full epistemology. And for Aristotle, I have scientific epistemology. Questions and conclusions for Masters of Rhetoric, episode number 7, The Ancient Origins of Epistemology, From proto-epistemologists to Aristotle. Question 1. How did the pre-Socratic turn from mythos to logos and set the stage for epistemology as a distinct philosophical pursuit? Number 2. Is Socrates' claim that I know nothing a rejection of knowledge or a deeper kind of epistemic awareness? Number 3. In what ways does Plato's distinction between doxa, opinion, and episteme, knowledge, still influence how we define and evaluate truth today? Number 4. Can Aristotle's emphasis on sense perception and demonstration be reconciled with Plato's rationalism, or are they fundamentally at odds? Number 5. To what extent are our modern notions of justified belief and scientific reasoning still grounded in ancient Greek assumptions about knowledge? Until next time, this has been Masters of Rhetoric. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and keep trying to master rhetoric.